All right, we are live, and I'm going to wait just a few seconds here while StreamYard and YouTube decide to learn how to talk to each other, and then we'll get going. All right. All right, there we go. All right, so welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to do all the things that you do, like, subscribe, do all that jazz. Earlier, I posted all the emojis for memberships, so that's doing well. There is a super chat goal, as always, every broadcast. That's my polite way of asking for money without asking for money. So thank you all that do donate over the last year or so. You guys have been great. So, but yeah, thanks for being here. This is Rapid Fire. This is where I answer the questions from the chat or deal with certain issues that the chat presents. As tonight, I think that's how this one's going to start. But yeah, I'm basically here. This is kind of an open forum. It's the most open forum I have. The other two broadcasts I do, I make you subscribe before you can chat. Not this one. So there's that. All right. And let's get an initial roll call. I try to recognize everybody when they show up. Triple E was here earlier, but I don't know if he's here now. We have Fred, who is Owen. Blossom is here. And let's see, I think I saw Anne Marie and Paul and Earl. The lovely Earl has arrived, alive and well, I hope. And Katie, wishing us fellow infidels a good evening. But I want to start out with something that is both a atheist kind of issue that Blossom mentions, but it was also a deconversion issue for me. And Blossom, I'm not going to read this entire, as you put it, spammage, but you bring up one of the most excellent points that I used to have to deal with when I was in Christianity. And that was the way Christians judge entertainment. One of my largest complaints when I was a Christian at the time was there's all this entertainment in Christianity. There's like movies, like at the time when I was in my last church in the Assembly of God, I think the Left Behind thing was big and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, okay. First of all, I'm not really sure that interpretation of Revelation is valid. And number two, it's shit story writing. Okay. And so you're talking about how you're watching these reviewers look at Breaking Bad, and there are certain characters. Now, I'm not as familiar with Breaking Bad. I haven't watched the whole thing. I've watched a few things and heard some reviews. It's just not my cup of tea necessarily. I think I would probably like it, but how much time I watch TV and watch series is pretty limited. It's not my style. I'd rather read a book. But at the same time, I get what you're saying, because what you're talking about is how Christians will do a review of something, and what they do instead of looking at how well it's written, whether the characters tell an interesting story, whether the characters fit the story, whether this, that, other stuff works. What Christians do is they judge the character based on their preconceived Christian morality. And I absolutely get that. Like it's one of the things that drives me nuts, and it's why I think Christians, when they do put out movies and stuff, do such a horrible job with it, because they're so concerned with presenting proper theology and morality that they forget they also need to write a good story if they're going to keep people entertained. And it's interesting how they judge that way. Like, they don't judge a series or a movie or anything based on its technical merit at all. like I remember when I was in my last church in the Assemblies of God, there was a radio show that this is all they did was review movies that were secular. And their standard was, is it good for family? Does it uphold Christian values? Does it uphold Christian morality and principles? Is it good theology about God? Does it present, Christians in an accurate light? So on and so forth. Nothing was ever about, was this a good movie or was it talent? Was it, because you couldn't have a bad moral review of a movie and then say, but it's a really hell of a good story, because then people would go see it. And what a lot of these shows are doing is they're trying to discourage people from going, to that movie. And so they don't want to say it's technically good and it's a great film. You need to see it because it's just, this monstrous storytelling genius. If that's what it is, they want to say, the one character sleeps with somebody they're not married to, and this other character is supposedly a Christian, but he kills. They go down the flipping list of Christian morality tropes. And I get your complaint, because it also, from an indoctrination point of view, it trains people to look for the morality of movies and not, which is an important concept. Theme and morality and all that stuff is in movies. It's just, that's what they focus on. They don't focus on talent. And this was true when I was growing up with like Christian rock and music and stuff like that. Like, as long as it had a good message, it was okay. The problem is some of the Christian musicians that did music were either crap, and the ones that were good used to do secular music. So it was kind of like that. But yeah, it's one of those things that really, when I left the faith, changing how you judge entertainment became an interesting topic for me, because a lot of people will, you spend so much time, should I go watch this? Should I go see this? Should I read this? Because, these reviewers say it's bad. And I got to a point, like in my late teenage years, that I just basically said, screw it, I'll make up my own mind and just read this stuff and see. Like, it was funny because everybody was so against Harry Potter when it was first coming out, because it's witchcraft and wizardry and all this other crap. And I'm like, I decided to read it. And I'm like, well, this is a hell of a story. Okay, it's a pretty damn good story. And, I don't know. I'm just not, I'm glad to be away from that, because it leads to how you judge people. Like, you were mentioning the character that's a woman and she has sex, with somebody she's not married to, and she's married, so she's doing adultery, and she's got all these other problems with her. And it's like, they can't get past that. They can't get past the fact that there's other things involved in the story. And it's as somebody who's gotten out of that, I now realize how indoctrinating that is, because it's a woman engaged in these sinful activities, which does diminish women. It's the notions, well, like you'll have a female character that's married to a man and she's not very submissive, and then a whole bunch of bad things happen to her. See, that's what happens when you're not a submissive wife, that sort of thing. And Christian entertainment is full of that crap. Okay, it really is. So, hey, Mighty, how you doing? And Martin's here to read a book. It takes me less time to read a book. So I literally read this book I just read in literally 2 hours. So, and it was almost 200 pages. So I actually can, when you're talking series, no, sorry, you're going to lose me. Tim LaHaye was definitely the L. Yes. And that's the thing about it. Does anybody hear anything about Tim LaHaye anymore and company? I don't know. I can't remember if he died or not, but I know they made a shit ton of money off of Left Behind from Christians. I know they made a hell of a lot of money. And then all of a sudden, when they got done with the series, they kind of disappeared. It is repulsive, because the whole idea of submission is built in a lot of these Christian. When you look at the perfect Christian couple in a film or a TV series that Christians produce, the wife, mom, always like the dad says go do this, and she goes and does it. Like it's that just shows her she's under the headship of her man, and her man is under the headship of God, and it's all well with the world. So it's like, yeah, no. Okay, so you got that Satanist and crap for Char, because you know the thing about a lot of entertainment is Christians judge it based on what's in it. Like you get it really bothers me a lot now because they judge secular entertainment based on their preconceived morality, but what they produce as well is very much Christian heavy, Kyle. And welcome, Kyle. I don't know if I welcomed you, but welcome. But it's like it's and they judge you based on what you watch. Okay, like you know, I am fairly certain that my recent consumption of the anime Black Lagoon would not meet Christian approval. Okay. Um, you know, it's like there's definitely some risque scenes. There's definitely some other stuff that happened inside the anime, and it's very, very violent. And so it's like, oh, you got to get rid of that violence and sex. You know, you can't. I'm like, it's literally the two driving forces of most drama, and there you go. But hey, Wolf. Oh, did he die after the first set of movies? Okay. But I remember thinking to myself, I wonder how much money he's made off of this shit. Like, when I look at Left Behind, like the book series, and I read most of it, I got to the end and I got sick of it because even as a Christian, I was like, God, this is just, they're just writing for money now. and and don't worry, I have that criticism of some secular writers. I think the Wheel of Time, there's like 4 books that you could cut out and nobody would notice. So, but it's like it's I don't know. I found it like you got these authors that are writing in Christendom, and because it's the only thing out there, that's what people gravitate to. That's what's awesome. And I think Left Behind put a lot of fear in people. It caused them to run back to church, stuff like that. So I just had a real trouble with the whole concept, even as a Christian, because I'm like, these guys are making a hell of a lot of money. Okay. You know, like every Christian is buying this shit, it seems like. So yeah, kinds of people will whisper, you know, the Lord says, list off a verse, the other guy says facts, but the slippery, yes. They do this in their, and once again, yeah, you're right in putting out Blossom that these are impossible standards. The whole point of the sin standard, if you look at it biblically, now this is me having studied the Bible, there is no way any human being can escape being a sinner based on the standards, and that's deliberate. Like the religion makes it literally difficult to be just a human being. And Jesus doesn't make it any easier. He makes it worse because he puts anger and lust in the same category as actually doing the deed. And so one of the most natural things that human beings do as part of, you know, reproductive stuff is when they meet another person, they check them out. Like I heard psychologists say we are so hardwired to like check each other out. It's like, so how do you not have lust according to Jesus' standards? And when you put that in a Christian movie, like there's got to be a lot of Christians that sit there in the pew and say, I'm just not going to make it. Like it, and I know there is. I know that for a fact because I used to get that, man, it's like God's standards are so high, there's just no way to make them. Yeah, exactly. And that's what happens when you have these Christian movies too, is they will indeed quote, the Lord says this, and they'll say facts. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, is it a fact? Okay. Yeah, they you make a valid point. They will decry violence, Earl, but they secretly like it. And I'm going to tell you, whenever when I used to tell, like, on Good Friday services, when I had a few of them, like, I would tell the intimate details what a crucifixion involved, and most people would just, kind of hang their head, but there were a few that kind of got excited about it, and I had to wonder, okay, does this excite you? um, Chains and whips excite me, apparently. But yeah, it's that kind of thing where they will decry something, but I'm like, if you're decrying violence, you obviously haven't read the Bible very much, because both Old and New Testament have a massive amount of violence and a lot of blood. And I remember, you have hymns to blood and blood ritual sacrifices and stuff like that in the hymn book. So it's like, I'm not. You make the most valid point, is they decry violence in movies, but their own book and their own main character is exact. It's absolutely. And so it's that. I mean, yeah, it's like the entire dogma does revolve around violence. It's a torture device. It's a device of, public execution. And so, yeah, yes, Jesus, Big Brother, Jesus watching you, thought crime, and that's in their entertainment. Like, I was on vacation with my family, and they wanted to go through a Christian bookstore. I haven't been in a Christian bookstore in years, literally. So I'm like, okay, let's walk in and see what happens. And I get to the children's book section, and I'm looking through it, and it's like, this is so edited. Like, children's Bibles are so edited. Okay, so yeah, it's interesting, because I'm like, Jesus is watching, Jesus loves you. Um, but the Bible is so edited. Like, the story of Noah's Ark is one of the most popular children's stories ever, but it is also the most edited, because it doesn't talk about God being angry at all the people wanting to destroy. Oh, he was just sad. It was sad that everybody had gone so wrong. And they certainly don't put, like, people drowning, okay, in the story either. And it's like, when you really look at the Christian entertainment ideological creation factory, they have a real bad, they put all this stuff in it that really keep the, Big Brother is watching you. Very valid point. And we need to judge everybody based on their morality. Okay. And what, like, if you found out a Christian friend back in the day had read Harry Potter, what are you doing? Why are you trying to expose yourself to witchcraft? It becomes this entire judgmental cycle that I just don't have time for anymore. Um, I don't know. The more I look at it, the more it's like it's propaganded to the nth degree. I just don't. So, yeah, I mean, in a sense, you're right, Earl. Like, you guys are all going to hell. I can see a room full of people that are going to hell right here, guys. And it's at this moment, that this kind of stuff comes out, for Fang's sake. It's like, it's, yeah. I don't get it at that point, because they come in here and they just threaten me with hell, and I'm like, could you please prove hell exists? And please prove your God that supposedly created it. Can you do that for me, and then justify why a loving God would do that if we're all his kids? Like, I can't even think of harming my kids half the time anymore. Like it's repugnant to me. So hey Michael, good to see you. And Coyote's here as well. So outstanding. I don't know why he needs to watch you. I'll give you a little spoiler for my thoughts on Adam and Eve, which is that Yahweh is actually addicted to porn. So, I'm going with that angle, Michael, in that story, and it's probably going to be a theme that runs through the entire book. that one of Yahweh's characteristics is he's a voyeur. So, and we're gonna just run with that because it's funny because when I talk to Christians about that very issue of God watching us all the time. So yeah, like even when you're doing the wife, he's watching. Make sure you have right technique and all that crap. So yeah, we're all going together. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'll, I don't know. I'd rather spend time with infidels at this point because the people that are supposedly going to heaven are insufferably self-righteous, and I just don't want to hang out with them for the rest of eternity. So, and I'd rather hang out with nobody than that. So, who was laughing after Stephen Hawking died? Okay. Yeah, Blossom, religion really steals your empathy for others. If they're not your tribe, like I have empathy for my opponents when they die. Like there are theists that if they died, I would have some like sadness about it because it's like I didn't win the arguments with them necessarily, but there are people in my life that believe, and like my mom, stuff like that. And I would never have that reaction of, oh, well, I guess they're disappointed there's no heaven now. I mean, you're not alive to be disappointed. Okay, that's the thing. I always love atheism, how we're like diabolically trying to take over the world. We have no sales pitch worth of shit. Okay, let's be honest. We have no afterlife. You're kind of left on your own to determine your own morality. Um, judging your own moral decisions by your own code, pretty much. I don't have a prepackaged afterlife for you at all. How do you sell that shit on the religion market? Okay, all these religions have all this really decent sales pitch. But yeah, but it's that, when I see Christians do that, it's like, dude, dude, the guy died. You know, um, so, so they're obsessed with the genitals of strangers. Yes, that's probably it. Yeah, that is kind of the theme I'm going with Adam and Eve, that God is estranged from his wife Asherah, and they're about to get a divorce. And so Yahweh creates paradise and Adam and Eve so he can, and Lilith for that matter. I'm going to throw Lilith in there because, even Yahweh likes a couple lesbians going at it. So, so that's kind of where I'm going with that one. Yeah, he's definitely bipolar. You dream, Android? They might dream of electric fangs. Simple refutal. It's bullshit. Like, it doesn't make any logical sense to me. The ontological argument just doesn't make any sense to me. And Planaga is a pre-supper, so I have my same argument against pre-suppers in the fact that their argument is ultimately useless because I can literally use it right now to prove fangs doesn't exist in reality. And until you prove fangs doesn't exist in reality, then I'm allowed to believe in him. And that is literally the pre-sup argument. So, and Planaga, I think, is right there with pre-suppers. So, yeah, I don't give pre-suppers a lot of credence anymore. I think their arguments are shit. Okay, they didn't convince me when I was a Christian, and they certainly don't convince me now. But yeah, he's the simple thing with anything that Planaga does is, well, okay, I can use that argument for anything then. Any God in existence you can pre-sup. So it proves nothing. Relevant. Bet your ass. Oh, no, we're not. That's got to be the most obvious bullshit I've heard in a long time, Michael. No. Um, We're not fish in the ocean asking for evidence of water. We can clearly see the water exists. We're just not really convinced there's a God one. A fish can look at water and say, yeah, there's water. But the God question's a completely different question. It's a really bad analogy, by the way. It's a poor one. So, well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, atheism is free. Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with Earl. That's got to be the dumbest thing I've heard all day. And I'm not trying to be rude to you, but Christians are, let me use a similar analogy. Christians are like ghost hunters who don't find any evidence of ghosts, but still believe in them anyway. Okay, that's a better analogy. So, um, wealthy religious people have, because religious people, Ron, and welcome, Ron, have delusions that they think guide reality. And so when they have wealth, they have the ability, um, to do stuff they didn't. You got to understand, you'll find a true character of a person if you give them wealth or power. You give them wealth or power, people become who they really are, and they are able to do more. And wealthy people are able to do more because they have money. Okay, and so if you have a religious mindset and you have money, then you can enact your religious principles on others. The same is true for power. Okay, um, and so you have to be very leery. Like if suddenly I won the lotto, who I truly am would be much more evident through how I use my money. Okay, you would see what I really value. Okay, because I have more unlimited resources, and wealthy religious people are going to spend it on the religion. So it's like it's that kind of bad. So yeah, I don't I don't have any good answer to that other than yes, they should scare you. Yeah, it's basically a look at the trees argument that Michael was making, which has been debunked many, many times, and I don't really have time to do it here again. I'm done with it. I'm done with pretty much all the arguments for the existence of God. They're all shit, so I'm kind of done with them. If you want, I'm failing to provide empirical evidence for said water. Yeah, I know why I don't believe. And yes, you made Earl grumpy. So, Johnston has a recent paper that aims to show that one can flip Planet God's model on it to show God doesn't exist. Honestly, he might be right. Like you can flip. The thing with the ontological argument is, and most of the arguments for the existence of God is you can either insert a different deity into all of them. Okay, that's one of their biggest problems. And a lot of them you can indeed flip and thus prove God doesn't exist. And he might be right. So, but I would definitely go with that route. Yes, Adam, Eve, and Lilith are the real Trinity. That's where Yahweh got the idea. Yeah, I'm having fun with coming up with this one, but the Adam and Eve story is like, Yahweh's addicted to porn secretly. So that's why he creates Adam and Eve and Lilith. So, so there you go. And Fangs is kind of involved. He is involved in that story a lot, being a fertility deity. So, and the presence in the universe where there's a different time flow and different is kind of funny. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I haven't heard of Richard Carrier, to be honest. Somehow he slipped through my radar. Um, if you had him on your channel today, I'll watch your interview. I'll see what I'll think. But he just subbed. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've got here. Hold on. I don't recognize that name. I may know, but I don't. Here. And I'm going to subscribe to you. I can't believe I haven't done that already. Yes, I will talk to Richard Carrier. I will watch your interview, and later and see what I think. But the resurrection case is kind of shaky. So, no, I'm not an asshole to my neighbor because it's beneficial to me and my neighbor. Full stop. I don't need a God for that. You're assuming that God is the author of morality and you haven't demonstrated that. Okay. Which God is the author of morality? Is it Tyr, the god of law and justice from the Norse pantheon? Perhaps it's Zeus. Um, you're assuming a whole bunch of shit there, Michael, that you haven't proven. Okay. Sorry. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. Okay. There's a lot of good moral reasons that don't require a God of why I would treat my neighbor well. Okay. We are a social species and we have enjoyed a great deal more success since we've become a social species. So, and the more we learn about morality and absolutely, and I'm having to say, Michael, that, Christians don't seem to treat their neighbors all that well. Okay. You're an asshole to your neighbor. God debunked. Yeah. See, and some people are generally assholes to their neighbors. So like Earl here. So yeah. Hey, Triple E. It is dumber than the Frisch thing. But I'm trying to be respectful to the theists as people, but from my perspective, both statements have been dumber than boxes of rocks. But at the same time, I get where Michael is because I used to be there. Um, and my thing about it is like a lot of people like Michael just don't seem to realize that a lot of their statements rest on a shit ton of assumptions that they haven't bothered to prove. So yeah, see, a lot of people in this room, Michael, are assholes to their neighbors. So God debunked you. We've just literally reversed your argument and proved there is no God. Okay, that's how bad your argument is. I honestly, Blossom, like there are so many people's names to remember. I am horrible with names too, Blossom. Like I'm bad. So, so it's one of the things I'm really bad at is names. Oh, okay. Well, then he's a good dude. I will watch that interview. I need to educate myself, obviously. Yeah, these are pretty bad analogies. I'll agree with you. All right, yeah, but I'm hey man, I'm going to sub to your channel. I'm surprised I haven't done it before. I sub to a lot of people, that are my friends and show up in chat and stuff, and I'm surprised I haven't done it before. Oh, yeah, I'm thinking for my comeback video, I may do something like that, the mental facts argument and why it doesn't convince me. So I I don't know if there is. I know um, there have been some that have proposed alternate universes and dimensions as part of cosmology, and I think our best answer right now is I don't know. So yeah, it's pure scientific speculation at this point. Yeah, it's pretty much. Fag seems like the lucky rabbit's foot of procreation. If you hump in his presence, somebody always gets pregnant. That's probably true. That's probably true. Minimal rabbits hypothesis: rabbits exist, so fangs exist. There you go. I mean, I've told people to use the same arguments for fangs that they use for God, and so far, you guys are doing well. Even if being nice wasn't directly beneficial, there is some feelings of empathy that make me want to be nice to another person or fact, other sentient being. Yes, and that's kind of the thing that atheists always want to throw God in there, or theists always want to throw God in there, and it's without a doubt, it's like it's not necessary. Morality is a survival trait. Like it's if you don't behave moral in this world, you tend to have bad consequences. Like nobody holds you accountable. Like Really? So police, prisons, judges, laws don't exist? Nobody holds you accountable? Seems like humans hold each other accountable quite well. Thank you. It's possible. See, that's why I say I don't know. And I'm comfortable saying I don't know, Ron. I mean, it doesn't really affect me personally that much. Yeah, so any specific fish deities out there are proven by the fact that fish aren't assholes either. Or maybe they are assholes and disproves the fish god. Carrier has the cooler head of hair. Okay, well, there you go. Fangs is the maximally great bunny. He is. He is the maximally great bunny. There is no bunny greater than Fangs. So there you go. Perfectly good argument from a theist point of view. I don't know why it wouldn't work for Fangs. Okay, so your neighbors are assholes, so therefore there is no God. So if we reverse the argument and you're an asshole to your neighbor, therefore no God. I'm not raging about God. I'm raging about belief in God. Once again, this is how do you know what atheists are thinking or doing, actually? I talk about the arguments for God's existence, say they're crap. I don't rage against something I don't think believes. I mean, you can rage against Voldemort as a villain or Sauron as a villain too. It doesn't mean you necessarily believe that they exist. Okay, you know, just because you rage against a fictional character doesn't mean that they exist in reality. Okay, like you can have all kinds of opinions about fictional characters. It doesn't mean that they necessarily exist. Okay, sorry, this argument is crap too. I mean, you're 0 for 3 here, man. Like you need to give up this sport because you're not doing very well. Okay, if a baseball player had an 0 for 3 day that day, he's had a bad day, and he needs to sit down and maybe be benched. So, you know, but yeah, Rand Paul, Carrie and Rand Paul could be twins. Okay, there you go. Lawrence Krauss and Paul turned out to be even bigger disappointments than I realized. Both are associated with Epstein. Yes, Katie, there's a lot of people associated with Epstein, and that's why nobody wants that shit released. Like Democrats, Republicans, entertainers, nobody wants that out because there's a whole bunch of people that would go down in a quick hurry. Do abstract things exist? Define exist. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It depends on existence. Do they exist in people's minds? Sure. Do they exist in reality where I can test them and poke and prod them and give empirical data of their existence? No. Yeah, nobody is raging at God, Michael. I'm certainly not. I don't really. You don't think? Well, it's perfectly valid, Paul, to not think there are other dimensions, because it's also perfectly valid to think there are, because we don't really have any evidence. We have a lot of theories, but yeah, that's about as far as it is. Yeah, social, when you're dealing socially with other human beings, Fred makes a very valid point here. You have a lot of moral rules you follow simply because you want to get along and not get, mugged. Yeah. So, or beat up. I kind of agree. We rage at religion and its negative effects on society. We don't really rage at God. So, I don't know. This is something Blossom, you actually hit on a question that I've actually asked. The rabbit being pulled out of a hat, what's the purpose of that? I don't know, because I have a very high opinion of Penn and Teller and how they do their magic stuff to and they let everybody know it's a trick. Okay. And so, would Fangs being pulled out of a hat, would he announce to the world that it is a trick, even though he supposedly has the superpower to teleport? I don't know. So it's one of the questions I've had to ask, because in doing Fangsology and trying to write this book, it's like, what is the character of Fangs on, because when I write, I tend to drop my characters into situations and then think, okay, how would they react? And and I do a lot of character development. And Fangs is a very well developed character already, but that's one question. It's like, how would he feel about being pulled out of a hat as part of a magic trick? Like, you know, so God did exist, I would still rage at him. There's so much insane shit he did in the Old Testament. You can prove he exists. I'd rather go to hell. Yes. And I've kind of got that way blossom too, because the God of the Old Testament's an asshole. And that's the way I'm portraying in my Fangs book is Yahweh is pretty much an asshole who is a hypocrite. And that's kind of the way he is in the Bible too. So I am currently I have read a book by a theist that actually inspired me to be a better creator. It's called The War of Art. I can't remember the author's name at the moment, but the first one is talks about resistance, and the second part talks about being a professional. If you know the difference between an amateur and a professional is a professional shows up every day and does the work and realizes that there's a joy at the other. I think the problem I have with the third part is the same problem that the guy who wrote the foreword of the book had with, which is the author goes into this, extra, supernatural inspiration kind of shit. And the writer of the foreword says, I disagree with that. The same source of our resistance to doing things. And so this has kind of inspired me. How do I be a professional YouTube creator and be a professional writer? Because those are the two things I want to pursue being now. And those are things I can keep doing long after I retire. So, and I'm kind of in that mode. I'm like 11 years out of full retirement. And so, with Social Security anyway. And so I'm kind of, how do I move my mindset from this? But yes, what I want to do is pull stuff from the streams like this and turn them into short videos, probably shorts, and try to release them every so often. Once I get good at that, it'd probably be like 5 days a week. So um, I'm definitely looking at that. But my live streams, I think you can do them this way. I enjoy doing this way because I'm more deconversion focused on my live streams than I am anything else. Like this is the only live stream I do that's open for them. So, um, it's like it's it's one of those things that I'm debating right now. But I'm trying to move my mindset into okay, this may not always be fun every day, but it gets really fun when I do it and get stuff done in it, and that's where I'm headed. So I'm trying to change my brain. And part of that is making sure my environment is good, that the things around me are good. And so I've been cleaning like a madman right now. But I'm very meticulous about that. So it takes forever. And so in keeping it clean then afterwards. But yeah, it's like I'm definitely thinking about changes. So one of the changes I may move rapid fire this broadcast to Monday so it doesn't interfere with family events as much. Like my daughter loves to do birthday parties on Tuesdays, and then I have to cancel, and I don't want to do that. So, yeah, I mean, I hate Hitler and Stalin more than God. So, um, so there. And I don't really hate God. I just kind of find him in a very. I'm also annoyed at how stupid the police make people as witness. Yes, it makes you look dumb. Yeah. Oh, okay. So the prophetess, the lap in which our Lord naps, has an official view, probably received by revelation. Don't touch the ears. He'd be pissed. Okay. What if he's grabbed by the nape of the neck, though? Yeah, Peter Cottontail is the prodigal bunny. I've actually done listed in the official canon of Fangsology is the Peter Rabbit stories. So, including Peter Cottontail. So, and Carrot Session was interrupted, but he would appreciate the trickery. Yes, he might appreciate the trickery, though, Earl. He might like, this sucks, but I appreciate, I can see that. You feel about your hair. debater like Big John does both a regular and show version of his stream, so you can get. I think that's what I'm going to probably do. Modern atheism is I'm going to take bits and pieces of these streams and put them on as more video content on shorts. I just got to clip out stuff that's 5 minutes or less, like all my interactions with Michael there. I could clip out. I probably, if I start clipping though, I'm probably going to clean up my language just a slight bit. So, no, you're saying stuff. You're making claims about atheists that are derogatory. You don't know any atheists and you don't know what they think, and you're making statements that are basically derogatory about them. I'm the Rabyd Atheist. This is an atheist channel. I don't allow that here. Okay, if you're going to engage atheism, engage it ideologically. And the fact that you have a second account is probably going to also get you timed out, and it might get you banned. So if you don't accept the timeouts or banned by my mods, that's usually a no-no too. So, I mean, he could be the patron saint of magicians. Like, I can see that, Earl. I can see that. Hey, excuse me. You get. I have to agree with Captain Death Dave. I can't do it like you do it. Thank you. Appreciate you, Dave. So welcome. I think I have. You got timed out because you're basically saying atheists are like this, atheists are like that, and you're not even bothering to engage the atheist as to what they're actually like. That's not a conversation. That's you injecting stuff. Also, the fact that you obviously have a second account based on what I'm seeing, did you just switch accounts to get back in? Because I have to ask that question. Or is this the same account? Because you weren't represented by the same M before. It's a lot of content in some moment. Well, I also like feel what you want about the amazing atheist. He has a successful channel, and a lot of that is just clips from his streams. So I think if I can figure out how to do that very quickly and very efficiently, which might take some time, yeah, there's a lot of stuff I can clip from streams that I can put on in short videos. So, and shorts get a younger audience too. I've noticed that. So a lot of younger folks like the shorts more than the longer videos. You have to get old and want to concentrate on something more before you get that. It's real. I couldn't love sincerely want to obey an evil God. Yeah. There's a great quote by a Greek philosopher. He says, if the gods are benevolent, then they wouldn't have problems with a good person. And if they're malevolent, we wouldn't want to serve them anyway. I can't remember who that is, and I'm sure I'm paraphrasing, but I kind of have that attitude about a lot of the character gods in fiction. It's like, is this a God I would want to serve? And the answer is most of the time is no. So, yeah, annoying. I get it. It's not about hurt feelings, dude. It's about you making claims about atheists that are not true. Okay. I don't hate God. I don't believe he exists. There's a difference. Okay. You're also making some of the worst arguments for God I've ever heard in a while. It's been a long time since I've heard some of that, but I do what I can with the money I possess. Okay. Lighting has always been an issue because I'm so hypersensitive to light. I cannot have lighting directly in front of my eyes, and so it becomes a problem for me. And so that becomes an issue. I've always done my stuff with the eye on the fact that you could listen to it first and watch it second. In other words, it's more of a podcast idea than if I do put visuals up, it's usually to illustrate a point. So I'm here for the shorts. Which shorts? The ones I'm wearing are YouTube shorts. I don't know. Yeah, I think being more, I've got to grow this thing slowly, and my equipment's got to be upgraded slowly. The more as success breeds it. I had a major amount of success last year. Like I gained like 4,000 subscribers last year. This year has been a little rougher. And it's because I've been streaming more than I've been doing videos. So yeah, I mean, so because Dade puts the most obvious point. Atheists have really only one thing in common, and you theists like make generalizations about atheists that aren't true. Like you can't do that and expect me to tolerate it. It's okay, Fire Gross. Uh, I've heard of you many, many times, Nate. You got to understand. I have many atheist friends in low places, side places, high places. Um, I had Prophet of Zod back when he was still Prophet of Zod stop by here once and have a chat conversation with me on one of my videos, and and we've dialogued. And then he made mention of me on one of his last videos as Prophet of Zod, and I I honored that. I've had Shannon Q on a live stream because when I was covering what her and Paul said about clergy in hospitals and cancer wards, she showed up and we had an interesting conversation. And um, okay, so it was the same account. Okay, I don't know. I can't keep track of that stuff, Earl, and run a show at the same time. I know I'm limited. Sorry about that. Okay. But yeah, it's like you're timed out because you're making accusations about atheists that are not true. Okay, and without evidence. So yeah, personal attack's kind of a deal breaker when you're attacking atheists as atheists are like this and atheists. How about you asking an atheist, what do atheists think about X? Okay, that would be a legitimate question. It might be Epicurus. It's possible. I can't remember where that quote came from, but it's like if the gods are malevolent, we would, as human beings, we would want to be better than such gods. Is the idea, and I uphold that idea. That's why I don't Yahweh. I would never serve again. Jesus either. They're kind of evil fucks. I don't have time for them. It's a big nope for me. So it's a big nope. Yeah, straw man atheism doesn't work really well with atheists either. Like quit straw man. Go talk to some real atheists. Come up with some opinions about atheists based on your conversations, and then try that again. Okay, so but yeah, my feelings were hurt. My reasoning ability was damaged. Okay, like I had to go places I didn't want to go. Kohler asked me if God was real, why I would obey him. I said, even if I tried to obey, I couldn't and love him and I would still go to hell anyway. Yeah, I mean that's the problem. Like a lot of these people like want you to get to say the sinner's prayer and then you're good. It's like, but God wouldn't, if he's omniscient, would know that you don't really believe. Okay, so like, yeah, no. Evil God, evil by what standard? By what standard? Sorry, no, evil is not just an opinion. That's a nice assertion without any evidence. Um, that's your opinion. But no, we have definitions of evil. If it causes harm, if it causes death, if it causes diminishing in well being of individuals, it's evil. You can define evil as an adjective without making it, you're trying to personify evil there a little bit, and that's not what we do here. You can have moral assessments of what's good and evil based on economics, based on harm done. I'm sorry, that's more than an opinion. That's rationality engaging the topic of what evil is. It's a nice straw man of what atheism is, but it's clearly of where morality can go as an atheist. Like atheism really only has one thing in common: we don't believe in God. Moral systems for atheists are legion. There's a lot of them, but most of us on the rational side of the ball we go, well, does this rationally cause harm to another, or does it? And you can absolutely do that. Okay, Okay, you can absolutely do that. The idea that evil and good are just opinions in morality, if you take out God, that's a load of shit. I mean, which God are we taking out too? Like, are we taking out the Hindu God, the Abrahamic God? Are we taking out the Norse pantheon, the Greek pantheon of gods? I mean, which, because I'm sorry, when you put gods in it, you also have nothing but opinion about what gods think morality is. So, I mean, you're making an accusation that I could easily flip and look at all religions and go, yeah, but your morality is all over the place too, based on the interpreter of that morality and based on which God we're talking about. So I'm sorry, I don't get it. I don't get this statement, because literally there are gods that justify slavery. There are gods that justify murder. There are gods that justify. On what basis do you say then you're any better as far as an opinion? And I can do that argument too. Like, I'm sorry, moral opinion among Christians varies. So it becomes down to opinion about what God said or whatever, what he meant. Sorry, I think with authoritarian divine command theory, you still are left with a lot of opinion as to what divine command is. So you don't escape that either, if it was true about atheists. But I don't think it's true about atheism, because atheism doesn't really deal with moral questions. But there are plenty of secular moral systems that don't postulate a God and still have a morality and have clear definitions of what evil and good are. You don't have to agree with them, but you can define it. That's just a falsity that you can't. Yeah, I've made that observation that he's a spoiled brat billionaire that was never told no. And that's, you could care less about picture quality. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, the God of the Bible like kills innocent babies. I would consider that evil, because it caused harms to the babies. I mean, you can do that. Yeah, Zod. Okay. Yeah, the prophet of Zod. You can. Yeah, she came by once. I had a conversation with her on a stream. It was great. I think I kind of floored her with the observation that you do realize that men in Christianity don't always feel comfortable with what Christianity asks men to do. Like, I must have counseled a ton of men that didn't want to be the sole authority in their homes. They were very uncomfortable with that idea. And so it was an interesting discussion at that point, and we kind of got off topic, but I thought it still went pretty well. And I was flattered, that she took the time to talk to me, and I thanked her, because she was the one that got me over the whole therapy is for weak people. Yeah, so. But yeah. Um, Actually, I know people haven't heard of this atheist tuber in a while, but if you want a good expose on Elon Musk, go to Thunderfoot. He does videos on Elon Musk and basically points out that Musk's only real intelligence is his ability to pick the right people to run shit for him. All the achievements of like SpaceX and all that stuff, there's some other person that's the brains behind that. Like, it's Elon Musk isn't that brilliant, okay, and X and all that stuff. It's like, I get the free speech aspect of it, and there's no more misnamed social media site than Truth Social. So, but yeah, subjective doesn't mean better. It's just a ridiculous concept. Is this a joke? Mass alien abduction. It was not. It was the rapture. Remember this. Believe in Jesus. Don't take the mark. Endure unto death. No, I don't think I will. I'm kind of done with that line of dedicating my life to fiction. If there's a fictional deity I'm going to dedicate my life to, it's probably going to be Fangs, a deity that I created. So, It's my atheist deity that doesn't believe in himself or any other gods for that matter. Atheism is true. I'm not really sure what that means. Atheism is largely a rejection of the claims that gods exist. We're not saying atheism is true, I suppose. You're probably right about that, Coyote. It's like we're just saying we don't buy what you're saying. Okay, I don't buy the existence of Zeus. I don't buy the existence. I mean, literally, you Christians don't buy the existence of thousands of gods. You dismiss them. I'm just one God further than most people. So it's just a description of what we find repulsive, abhorrent, or simply unkind. Yes, and that's a very good definition of what evil is too. Like you can quantify a definition of evil without postulating a god. Is my whole point. If you wanted to. Yeah. See, Dade, you're way ahead of me. It's a novice thinking, but as I've said before on this channel, religion kind of keeps you childlike in your thinking on purpose, because as long as you're childlike in your thinking, you can buy a lot of bullshit. Okay, you got to grow up sometime. There is a verse of scripture I do agree with. When I became a man, I put away childish things. I finally arrived at that about 9 years ago. Okay, and one of the childish things I put aside is belief in some sky daddy that's going to come and rescue me at the end. Like, we all want that, but it doesn't necessarily true. So you got to have that. Hey, Reverb Twang, good to see you. Seen you in other places. You seem to like Earl, and if anybody who likes Earl is my friend. So, wow, a whole bunch of claims without evidence. Got any evidence about the rapture? I've been waiting for the rapture for 50 years now. And I'm going to tell you, that's not mainline Christian thinking about it either. So you're kind of out there. Hey, Phantom, good to see you. I don't know. I'm really late on the chat, so if I'm missing some of you, I'm sorry. Yeah, Thunderfoot does a lot of stuff about Elon Musk. I don't know if he posts as much, but a lot of the stuff, like Captive Desk, got me reminded that he still exists. I used to watch him in my early days of atheism when I was still in the church. He's been around for a while. I know that. And yeah, right now I think he does a lot. He did a lot of stuff for a while on Elon Musk about how Musk isn't actually as intelligent as everybody thinks he is. He's just really good. He's like a lot of business people. He's good at finding talent and putting them in place to make him look good. And then he takes the credit for what they do. Okay. He's like a lot of bosses. So, oh, what's the matter, Earl? He said rapture. Yeah, that does have a lot of different definitions. The whole eschatology of that, I used to grow up with in the Assembly of God, because the Assembly of God bought into all the rapture, pre-trib, millennial. We were talking about earlier in the stream about, Left Behind series. The Assembly of God people just ate that crap up. Okay, it's like it's theirs thing, but it's like nobody seems to realize that this whole theology of the after times isn't that old. It's like I think it's only about 300 years old, and it didn't always exist. There was a far different view of the afterlife before that, even among Protestants, and the future among Protestants. So, yeah, alien abduction is more likely than rapture. Oh, he's not a serious interlocutor. I'll make a note. That's a big if. You don't have proof that God brought forth life. You have an assertion without evidence. Okay. We actually have, testable, repeatable stuff that shows us where life kind of originated. So we're way ahead of, those that believe in science are way ahead of you. But that's a real bullshit thing for a God. You've just made him more evil in my mindset. If he loves us like children, like Jesus says, I can't even think of trying to harm my kids. So And so universalism, if you really think that God is a God of absolute love, then universalism is the obvious conclusion that everybody's going to get saved, and you're just kind of wasting your time. That even I'll get saved at the end. So to me, it's just not a very good argument anymore. Used to be. I don't know. It might be an indication of the end times. I'm a headbanger, so this disco shit. Don't get me wrong. Some of it, there's some good. Every once in a while, you're in the mood for something that's light and fluffy. But man, my favorite musical friends right now are Metallica, Iron Maiden, and a few others. So I'm still amazed at Dickinson's voice. So, like the human air raid siren. Oh my God, he can hold a note forever. Not really. It comes out in the 1800s, the 19th century. Some woman had a revelation, and that's where the beginning of it all started. And it hasn't really been around that long. It's a new doctrine. It's if you look at the history of the church, it's unique in that respect. Like the whole idea of the rapture of the church. It comes from Paul's idea of the resurrection, but Paul believed the resurrection was going to happen before he died. Okay, and he believed in the resurrection of the Jews to eternity. So they take that idea that it's primarily the first century church, and the church completely divorced themselves of that because obviously Jesus didn't come back in the first generation, and he was a false prophet at that point. And then they repackaged it into this rapture thing in the 19th century. So I'm so sorry, Triple E. I read most of them too, out of choice, because they were so popular, and I was a pastor at the time, and I was like, I got to know what people are talking about. And I got to the point where like, this is conjecture and it's fantasy. So I don't say something. I'm a big Sex Pistols fan, by the way. Well, not a big one. I love God Save the Queen. So, there's this end times thing, Phantom, that is a very recent addition to Protestant theology. Like when you consider all of Christian theology, over 200 years of it, the rapture thing, the pre-trib, pre-millennial, all that crap is just like a recent thing. Like somebody went into the book of Revelation, had this vision, and created a whole theological system out of it. And it's not been around that. And it's been used to scare the living shit out of people to get them to come to Christianity for years. It's a fear tactic, ultimately, in the end. I'm not really, I think, yes. Okay. And the thing is, they wouldn't be Christians for very long, Dade. Once you figure out that God is kind of an evil prick in the Bible, deconversion is usually the inevitable result. Okay. Like once I started stopping treating the God of the Old Testament with kids' gloves like I was trained to do my entire Christian life, is the moment my deconversion really started to kick in. Like it had been going on since Bible college and seminary. But once I started to analyze the character of Yahweh as a literary character without the Christian blinders on, you suddenly realize, you suddenly say, yeah, this is kind of an evil person. But once you're able to tell, Dade, it's usually that's the ramp that shoots you out. Okay, it's kind of like that. Second Great Awakening, yeah, that's some of that stuff too. End times beliefs have always been a part of Christianity, but the whole rapture thing is really very much a new thing. So there is absolutely no evidence that the apostles died for their faith. None. You can look up Apologia's arguments, even McDowell, who talks about the resurrection and who witnessed it, says that Christians need to stop saying this, and he's a Christian apologist, because that is simply not true. There is no evidence that the apostles died for their faith. I challenge you to go find it. Okay, it doesn't exist. Sorry. You are like hitting all the major. I've dealt with all this crap on this channel many, many times. Okay, But no, as a Christian, I knew that that claim right there, the apostles died for their preaching of the gospel, was untrue, because there's no historical evidence of how they died. You don't get a death narrative for the apostles until Fox's Book of Martyrs, and that's 1,500 years later. Okay, and sorry, no, there is no hard, soft evidence. You have evidence that they obviously all died, because they're all, you don't live to be a couple thousand years old, but there is no record of how most of them died from that time period. Unless you count the Book of Acts, and I say the Book of Acts is questionable as whether it's historical, and you have no examples of them being allowed to be recant from their faith, none. Okay, and so even the one in the Bible, in the Book of Acts, he's not given an opportunity to recant. Okay, he's just killed for political reasons. Yeah, the burden of proof is on you. Okay, I'm sorry. I've dealt with that as a Christian, because I would correct Christians. Don't say that. We don't have any evidence for that. Okay, when I was a pastor, I used to tell people, don't do that. And I was glad McDowell came out and was honest about it. It's like, yeah, we need to stop saying this. So, I think that might be true, but that's, given. But yeah, sorry, the apostles aren't dying for their faith argument has been debunked many, many times. There is no historical record from the first, second century, I would even grant this, of how the apostles died, period, full stop. Okay. Most of them, if you take the Book of Acts seriously, after Acts chapter 2, they literally, most of them just disappear. Okay, off the historical scene. There is no, that is an old apologist trope that they threw out there one day and never bothered to prove it, and everybody glommed to it based on confirmation bias. Yeah. Being willing to die for a belief is evidence that belief was strongly held by the recently departed. Yes, that's really the only evidence. Just because they die, even if it was true, it still doesn't prove the faith is true. It still doesn't prove that Jesus rose from the dead. It's why the minimal facts thing drives me nuts, because like I look at the fact, I'm like, how does this prove the resurrection? Okay, like do we have a camera on Jesus actually resurrecting? It seems like God caused his son to rise from the dead at a really lousy time. Like if he did it today, we could have camera footage. We could. Yeah, Thea's hungry for the apocalypse. Yeah, I'm kind of. So, see you later, Fred. I always miss it when you're not here. You're usually one of the first people here, and yeah. But I think the theology phantom is the Black Death's version is much, much darker. Like there is, if I recall, the theology of the end times for people during the Black Death is that they would have to go through everything as believers, and it would be a purification. Like they had this thing about pain purifies faith. It gets rid of lots of. It's like the refiner's fire thing. It's why they whipped themselves on the back during medieval times. The pain gets rid of the desires of the flesh and that sort of shit. And the end times beliefs kind of reflected that. Like, we're going to go through all the trumpets. We're going to go through all this crap because it purifies the saints, so to speak. The rapture is kind of a Protestant edition. So. uh, yeah, I see the thing about music in me, and I've said this before, Blossom, I'm all over the place. But if I come back to 000 for me, it's probably Black Sabbath's Paranoid. Like I remember when I first heard that song, I'm like, oh, wow, that's good shit. And it's stuck with me ever since. Like Ozzy's passing was a real blow to my emotions. I know I'm autistic, so I didn't necessarily show it, but when I was talking about it, I'm like, man, that hits the gut, because that, and then I listened to War Pigs and some of the other stuff that they did. And it's like, it's too bad I'm a Christian. I listened to this a lot more at the time. but yeah, if I come back to a grounding music, it's usually metal. So, but I got stuff everywhere. I don't judge. It really has to do that. Rejecting bears 13 years. Bears are God. So he was back within his lifetime of the people in Israel. That time is come and gone, and Christians that's why that's one of the reasons, Dave, that biblical scholars think like there are 6 books of Paul that are pseudo. And the reason is he switches from Jesus is coming back tomorrow to the church is going to go on forever. We need leadership and guide. It's like they did a real good propaganda job of when the prophecy didn't get fulfilled of switching Christianity. And I think that's why Christianity exists to this day, is because the 2nd century Christians did a real good fast one. And that's why they did it. So, yeah, soon kind of has a really weird connotation. Well, thank you, Fire Growth. Yeah, I would agree with that. Thank you, Fire Growth. That's one. 2 weeks? Okay. Yeah, so maybe since he's been billions of years forward and back, he does not know what soon means for a human. Yes, that's quite possible. I mean, if I want to justify it theologically, I guess I could do that. The Left Behind books and audio, and I did like it then. Now I wonder what I was thinking. I think the reason why the Left Behind series was so good is it gave Christians a way to visualize what they already theologically believed, and it gave them enough drama. But we were talking about entertainment earlier. I didn't have a high opinion of how it was written, though I think when I look at how popular the game, maybe the Left Behind series as books was well written. I didn't think much of the movies. In fact, I think I didn't even watch them all. I think I watched part of the first one and dumped it because I just, I mean, it's just the actors in it were kind of like, yeah. That's all false. There's no Jesus to bow to. Not you've created a Jesus in your mind, but no, that's preaching too. And if you keep doing it, you'll be banned by my mods. Trust me. Well, you'll be timed out for a while. Snowblind is your go-to. Yeah, I guess I had the privilege being Gen X of getting into when metal was kind of birthed and was in its childhood. I was there, so. Man, for education reforms, that might be possible. There's weirder shit that's happened. Into the Void and Snowblind, that's good shit. Okay, there you go. See, and that's the thing. I really don't judge people on their musical taste, what works. I use music as a way to ground myself and kind of put away the world for a while. Like it's always been my escape. Like I will close my eyes and don't bother me. Okay, don't bother me. So there's that. But yeah, to me, it's always been the moment that I first heard metal. It's stuck with me, and I think it's because my mom raised me on classical, and I could see the connection immediately. So, like you just replace violins and all that other stuff with guitars and basses and drums, and you're good. I don't remember. I think it was the Kirk Cameron one, like the one way back when. I just had a hard time with it. It's like I was already as an Assemblies of God boy at the time. I was already having trouble with the whole rapture theology in the first place. And so I had a lot of problems with that movie, both theologically at the time and like the whole series bothered me because so many people were eating it up. I'm like, I feel like I'm watching a fictionalized version of The Late Great Planet Earth by Hal Lindsey. And Hal Lindsey ended up miffing so many things. Like, like nothing came to pass that he said. He's like, he was 0 for 100. And yeah, it's just like I don't know. I don't know. I had a hard time with it. I was a Petra fan because of many of the bands out there that were Christian. I actually felt that they had talent. Like Greg Voles had a 4 octave range. Bob Hartman as a guitarist was excellent. The drummer was solid. They had several different bass players, but all of them were solid. But the Greg Voles years, they were definitely a really good band. And Striper, I was a heavy metal kid. I liked some of their stuff, but I felt they were a little too glam for me. Metallica's more my speed. Not, don't get me wrong, I like Def Leppard and a few others too, but like if you want to get the essence of my soul when it comes to metal, you have to grab, like Black Sabbath and Metallica and Megadeth and Iron Maiden and you know, yeah, I kind of figured that was coming. Uh, one, I'm going to answer this, even though I think it's a bullshit question in a certain sense. Um, we put people in jail. As a libertarian, I'm not really sure incarceration really solves the problem of crime. I'm much more of a guy that says rehab now because when I look at why people commit crimes and end up in jail, like I don't find if jailing people and imprisoning people is successful at rehab, I don't see it. And maybe we need to try something else. I'm not sure what that is, but we could put our heads together and figure out. As far as as vaccinations go, I put myself through a lot of exercise at one point in my life to have the feeling of being healthy and having a good body. Was that painful? Yes. When we talk about pain, is it unnecessary suffering or is it necessary suffering to get to something better? There's a big difference. As a Stoic, I would say that you need to make that distinction. Yeah, I mean, it is a stupid question. We know the difference. Okay. Like there's actually in this particular case, I think there's actually two very different things you're talking about. Okay, incarceration is a completely different thing. So through pain and yeah, I mean, like literally Christians have this Stoic idea that God puts you through suffering to make you a better person. Why wouldn't you consider vaccinations the same? I don't get that. Disembodied tyrant, wretched tongues. you know, there are so many metal bands now, Dade, that I get suggestions all the time on the channel. You should listen to this. You should look. I'm like, I don't have fucking time. I have a job. Yeah. Um, the problem with the Book of Acts is it has no corroborating evidence historically. It's a standalone. It doesn't even meet the biblical standard of 2 or 3 witnesses. Okay. Um, and just because Romans says so, that's Paul. And Paul is running on a lot of dreams and hallucinations, as far as I'm concerned. So I can't really trust what he says. But no, the idea of people recanting for their faith, you said the apostles, and none of the apostles have historical records of them recanting from it. None of them do. Okay. Sorry. I hate to break the news to you. Even Christian scholars have abandoned that argument. Okay. And with the biblical accounts, once again, the biblical's historicity is very questionable. Sorry. Like there's no backup to it. It's a claim without evidence. So, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it from a protect the society, that's kind of where jail, like we're keeping people away from other people so they don't harm people. But like incarceration for nonviolent crimes, I have a problem with. I don't think that solves the problem. Like if a guy's a bank embezzler, he's not going to axe murder somebody. Just keep him out of banking and make him pay back the money somehow if he can. It's like it's to me, yeah, you got to have a victim to have a crime, but you also need to understand the nature of the criminal. Like if it's a violent criminal, absolutely, we got to keep them away from everybody. And I can see that. And that's a different element. But there's a lot of nonviolent crimes. Like the people are in jail for selling marijuana. It's like, that's just stupid. Okay. You know, it's like, and it might be AI. So what's your point? Like I can make an AI video, Jesus rising from the dead. Is it actual footage? See, and you simply have pointed out how if that's the case, then why would you believe in the back too? Like you have no evidence of a resurrection whatsoever, other than a biblical account that tells you so. There's no hard evidence. There's nothing you can take to a court. Nothing. It's pure grade A hearsay. I've done this on questionable witnesses, which I'm about to return to hopefully very shortly. I point this out every time, that there is absolutely nothing in the Gospels that isn't hearsay. It's hearsay and wannabe. Okay, sorry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, do you believe the part of the Bible? I would ask, do you believe the part of the Bible about the zombie horde? Like a whole bunch of people rose from the dead at the moment Jesus died and and began to preach. Do you believe that too? Why is there no this is literally like something that happens citywide, and there's no remark about it from anybody at all outside the Bible and one biblical account. Yeah, talking snake, pillar of salt. I mean, a floating zoo. I mean, if you want to believe in that stuff, that's fine, but don't sit here and call me silly for not believing it, okay? Because I don't believe in Hercules' labors either. I don't believe Perseus did his stuff. You know, I don't believe in the Minotaur stories either. I like Odin and I like Norse mythology as mythology, but I don't believe a literal Odin has wolves and ravens walking around. I don't believe that stuff. Okay, like you would look at other stuff equally as ridiculous as what you just said and say, well, that's ridiculous. But based on what do you make that judgment call? So, yeah, the best time for Jesus to have returned is before AI and after recording devices were developed. Because then, yeah, ancient hearsay is still hearsay. Yes, that's the point. And once again, we have no validation of this from Clement either. Clement makes the claim that Paul was in prison 7 times, but he doesn't give us any prison records. Like, how does Clement know that? You literally have a one-off here again that doesn't even meet the biblical criteria of having 2 witnesses to it. Like the biblical, you guys ignore your own criteria so much. Yeah, it's like I got to go with Earl here. I like what? Okay, like you're quoting Clement, and Clement isn't even considered canonical by most people. Like so whether Clement is even speaking historical truth, he doesn't verify anything. It's like when Ignatius of Antioch says that the Gospels were written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. He's the only one that says so. And he doesn't tell us where he got that information. Something that would have been handy even back then for historical verification, because historians did try to verify shit back then. It's like you don't have that. Okay, I mean, and I think a lot of mythology got written about Paul too later. Like they added stuff because they made him a saint, and then they add miracles and all that bullshit to him. Okay, you got to remember that a lot of the Bible doesn't even meet its own standards of 2 or 3 witnesses. The Old and New Testament, all of it. Okay, I mean, we got 4 Gospels. Yeah, but some of them are directly copying each other. And so you don't have 3 witnesses of that event. You only have 1 and 2 people copying that one person. That still only gives you 1. And so, yeah, it's like, I don't think Jesus, I think I'm not sure Jesus would allow AI. I don't think God would allow AI. Okay, it's a contender. He doesn't want competition. Okay, so I mean, he literally destroyed people making a tower because they were trying to make a tower into heaven. And now, based on what we know, and we're throwing spacecraft up there, like, why isn't he knocking down spacecraft? It's like, I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't get this, because Clement, he never tells us where he got his information. And so you're just believing somebody said, because somebody said something. That's hearsay. I'm not going to believe on hearsay. And literally the New Testament is mostly hearsay, not just the Gospels, not just Acts, all of it. Like, it's just a bunch of stories. Did he? That's speculation. That's conjecture. Sorry. But once again, there's no record of Paul and why of him being given the opportunity to recant and denying it. There isn't. Even Clement really doesn't say that either. So, yeah, I mean, see, that's the thing, like, God is really selective on which towers he smites. So, yeah, the problem with AI is it can be channeled. Again, you just proved 9/11 is true, because those guys were martyred for their faith. They believed absolutely. So if martyrdom proves faith, then I think Islam might be ahead on points. Okay, I don't know. It's not a good evidence of proving something is true. Just because somebody is being willing to die for something doesn't make what they're willing to die for true. Okay, there are plenty of Islamic people that have died for their faith, from suicide bombers to the 9/11 attackers. Does that validate their faith? No. Yeah, it would be. I've actually heard some people say that would actually be like a god in certain senses. And I would say, well, we made it then. Okay. So it's a god with us as creator. I'm not sure that's going to go well. So, but I've hit my hour and a half mark, and I do have to leave. I do have to get ready for work. I know I feel bad. We've had a lot of good discussion tonight. There's a lot of good clip material. I'm going to have to learn how to do that. But yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely pleased with tonight's results. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. Yes, even the theists, you've given me plenty of opportunity to show why your thinking is a little bit low. But thanks for Dade and all the rest of you, some of the rest of you, Modern Atheism, many of the rest of you, go check out their channels, do the thing. I have a lot of atheist friends all over the place with different channels at different levels, and I like it that way. So thank you very much. And for all of you that stopped by tonight, thank you very much. For the person who donated, thank you once again. The fire grows. So yes. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate all of you. I will catch you all Thursday on Deconversion Hangout. So I'll be glad for those of us deconverting and want to talk about deconversion. It's a good place to visit. And if you want to learn about deconversion, it's also a pretty good place to do it. So you don't have any proof that the apostles were witness of the resurrection, because you have no proof of a resurrection. You got to actually have proof of a resurrection to be witnessed, and you don't have that. See all of you later. Thank you. Thanks would be with all of you. Appreciate all of you. May he nibble on all your hearts. Make sure you circumcise your carrots, just the tip, and make sure you pray to make sure your vegetables are cleansed of religious corruption. So have a great night. Appreciate all of you. Thanks all of you for stopping by. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around, and then it's over. And so you want to take all your time, money, and opportunities and spend them on yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And, don't waste them on the trappings of religion and faith. That's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, folks, thanks for stopping by, and I will catch all of you next time. That'll be Thursday at Deconversion Hangout. And see you then.